I'd like to welcome Alvin Graylin and Normandy Madden to the stage. They're going to do our first tech chat. So Alvin is a serial entrepreneur and even a parallel entrepreneur at this point. And Normandy and I go way back. We worked at Ad Age International several years ago, and we've stayed in touch since then. So I'm going to let them roll. Each one of these tech chats is about 15 minutes. So I hope you enjoy.
Okay. Thank you. It's great to be here, so thank you very much for including me. This is a very interesting forum today, so I'm glad we get to be the first ones starting out.
Yeah, a lot of pressure being the first one. So thanks, Rebecca, for lining us up first.
Yeah. So let's start with this. You set up mInfo in 2005, and you've expanded into a couple of areas, Guanxi, Mi, and Model Plus. So if you can sort of explain what these three are and sort of why you moved out of mInfo into the other two and how they're all related.
Well, I wouldn't say I moved out of mInfo. So. As Rebecca said, I mean, I've been doing a number of different companies, but they are all fairly interrelated. In fact, there's equity shares between all of them. And when I first started in 2005, it was for mInfo, which was a mobile search company. And then a couple years later, we got into mobile advertising. So we were working with Chinese carriers for search and then brands and agencies for advertising. And then we did acquire a small company called Guanxi SMS, which was a search service for expats in China back in 2006. And then that name we kept, which then became the Guanxi Mi, which is the mobile social network, which then spun out of mInfo a couple years ago. And then just this year now, we're working on spinning out and incubating a new company called Model Plus. That's this company, Model Plus ASEAN, little plug. Which is more in the mobile modeling and integration and kind of search and booking. So it's all technology related to mobile industry, and we're leveraging all the relationships, the technology, and the people that we've built over the last 8 years, and trying to expand on that and leverage the benefits of a bigger family.
Okay, so which one is the biggest focus right now for you? What do you spend the most of your time on?
Since one of my investors is here, my biggest focus is Guanxi Mi. No, seriously, actually it is, because it's the one that needs the most time, and it's fairly new, but it's also in a fairly rapid growth stage. Whereas mInfo is more of a mature company, and it's working with more traditional companies, and things aren't moving as quickly, and so I can let our team take over more of it. Whereas with Guanxi, we have both Chinese focus and international focus, so it requires a lot more attention, and the product is being changed on essentially every 3 weeks we have a new release, so there's just so much things going on. And then Model Plus is a brand new product, so it's something that it's kind of getting off the ground, and I think it's actually getting a lot of good momentum. So I have a partner on the business side who is actually running most of it, and I'm more giving him the technology support, or our team is giving him the technology support, so I don't have to be as deeply involved.
Mm-hmm. So Guanxi Mi, is it still very expat focused, or is it really moving more towards the Chinese market now?
Actually, Guanxi, the SMS service, was very expat focused, but Guanxi Mi has since the beginning been very local Chinese focus on Chinese white collars, right? Okay. So young white collars who are graduating from college, who want to build a new career, who want to make new business networks and maybe find a girlfriend. They can do all of that on Guanxi Mi, and it's a purpose-driven social network, right?
And how many users do you have now?
So we got about 1.5 million downloads on Guanxi Mi, and then on Model Plus, just over a couple months, about a couple 100,000, and that's a B2B product. So we're actually very happy with the momentum that we're getting on both sides.
Okay. Yeah. So can you take us through a couple of the sort of key milestones that in your time since 2005 setting this up?
I guess, the key milestones, getting the initial funding back in, well, actually, forming the initial team in 2005, getting the initial funding in 2006, winning the Olympic, I guess being the official Olympic provider in 2008, another round of funding in 2009, 2009. And then winning the China Telecom, China Mobile and in 2009, and then China Unicom in 2011 or 2010. So in terms of that, and then also growing into the mobile advertising business in 2009. So working with most of the major agencies and building a separate team for that. And for Guanxi, it's really, we actually had the idea for it back in 2010. And did the initial prototyping in 2011, angel funding in early 2012, and then venture funding in middle of 2012. So.
Okay. Can we talk about your funding a little bit, where it's come from? Is it Chinese funding? Is it Western?
So I guess my background was, I actually grew up, I was born in China, but I grew up in Seattle. So a lot of our initial funders were actually venture-related people from Seattle. Which were doing it mostly on an angel basis for the mInfo side. And then later on, we did get some venture money for the mInfo side. And for the Guanxi side is mostly angels in China. And then we had venture money coming into the second round, both institutional as well as strategic investments.
Can you name the companies?
I guess for the Guanxi side is Singtel Innovate for the strategic side, and then DFJ for the venture side.
So there's some funding from China and
Yes.
some from the West. How are they different in terms of what they expect from you when you present to them and talk about what your plans are? How do they view an exit strategy for companies in China? Like, are they different to deal with?
I think for at least the two firms that we worked with is not so bad because they're both very experienced investors and they have long-term horizons. But I did have some local Chinese angel investors that are very short-term minded. So after one of them put into a round and after 6 months said, "Oh, you know what? I need money now. Can I have my money back?" And I'm like, "Well, we need to wait for an exit." He said, "Well, I need money now. Can I have my money back?" And I'm like, "Well, I can maybe talk to some of the other investors and see if I can, sell your shares to them." And I checked around and said, "Well, nobody's willing to buy it right now, so maybe you need to be a little more patient." And so, but every 2 months I would get a call from him like, "Can I sell my shares back to you now?" So, so there are, when you take angel money, be careful because sometimes for less experienced investors, they don't understand the real concept of venture investment or angel investments, and they're looking at more as a, okay, I bought a house, okay, I want to sell the house, and they should be liquid any time, and venture is not that liquid, right?
So are you still getting these calls?
About every 6 months now. So, but I think he doesn't need his money as much anymore. So
Okay.
it might be okay.
Okay, but it sounds like if you want to buy into his company, there's an easy option here.
There might be a side side deal we could do. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of a lot of what you're doing is location based, and one thing in the past that companies have complained about is that you couldn't really get as narrow in terms of determining where somebody is in China using China Mobile and China Unicom as you could in the West. And I just wondered how narrow can you get to identifying where somebody is and how someone could reach them?
Well, there are different kinds of location-based services. There's GPS-driven ones where if you're on a phone and you have an app, and you can get down to a few meters type accuracy, but it only really works outdoors. And then there's kind of the AGPS or cell tower type, which is maybe 100 to 500 meters accuracy, and that one you can be indoors or outdoor. And then there's kind of the Wi-Fi stuff that a lot of people are working on networks for, but then that requires you to have a special software on your phone. And so there's a lot of different ways to do it. I think what you're talking about is more the carrier-driven cell tower type location identification, which is triangulation, which isn't that accurate. It's a few hundred meters. So, but a few years ago, they used to do what's called 小区广播, with small area broadcasts for marketing, but that was made illegal from all the carriers because of kind of the spam effect. Because essentially, anybody walking by a cell tower can receive a message about some promotion, which was quite annoying and not very targeted. Right? So, but right now, the most location-driven services are all really based about having a specific app downloaded to your phone. Now, there are things like WeChat, which has location-driven services, and if you're a third-party official account, you can actually access the location on WeChat and do some some light level of app services through another platform that you don't have anything installed for. So I don't know if that answered your question. It's a little probably.
So, but if you're a marketer trying to use these, is the accuracy good enough in China to really target people?
I guess it depends on which of those mediums you're using, right? But I think if you have an app on your phone, it's actually very accurate. But it requires the user to give you permission. They have to allow your app to give that location. And also using location is something that's you have to be very careful about, because it is a certain privacy issue, right? So you don't want to overuse it. And as long as the user gives you the permission, you have the app, you can send out notifications to them at certain locations that they're in. They can also do geofencing. So if you cross a certain area, then it can send you a message or notification, or you can get an SMS link to some other location app. So there's a lot of ways to link together. So if you really wanted to design something that was location driven, you definitely can, and it can make it very accurate. We've had some of our clients on the key account side have new store openings, and we would actually set up a mobile cell tower and have users that come within that cell tower where their shop is within about 500 meters would actually receive an SMS. So it kind of helps to get awareness for new store openings, but that would only be, let's say, for a couple hours during busy traffic time. You don't want to do that all the time, right? So so there's definitely ways to do very accurate and targeted location-based marketing if you wanted to design it well.
So we've talked about your funding, but we haven't really talked about your revenue so far. What is your business model? Where does the revenue come from?
So each of those different companies actually have different revenue models. The mInfo side has probably a little bit more complicated because we have a carrier side business. We have a search advertising business, small medium businesses. We have the key accounts business that works with brands, and they all collect different revenues from different client sets. Guanxi is right now a combination of, I guess, we really haven't implemented. We've done some amounts of essentially targeted advertising, either location-driven or profile-driven advertising, as well as services to carriers or large accounts. We're doing private social networks, right? And then the Model Plus side is really about creating and intermediating the model industry. So the modeling industry is actually a very archaic industry that hasn't changed for a very long time, and there's a lot of inefficiencies in there. So about half of the revenues of the modeling industry goes to middlemen who consolidate a few different agencies and then farms out jobs to them, because each agency only has, let's say, 30 to 50 models, and at any one time for them to fit the requirements of a client is actually very difficult. So the agencies themselves only get about half, and then the models probably only get about 20 or 30% of the money, right? So what we're doing is saying, hey, we're going to take all the agencies in China. We've already signed exclusive with over 30 of them, and then be able to have them get essentially almost all of the money from the brands, and then have the brands be able to see across all of the agencies and find what they're looking for, either by characteristic or by type, and be able to send a job out and it goes to all of the ones that they're looking for. So it's actually very efficient. And then now we're branching out to e-modeling, where the online modeling industry is actually like 10 times bigger than the offline modeling industry. So people posing for e-commerce shops on Taobao and whatever. So it's a 2 billion RMB business last year to do e-models. So we're now working with some of the players in that area to take our professional models into that space and have some of the e-models go into the professional industries. So it's complicated.
Okay, one last burning question.
Okay. Do we want to open it up for one from the audience? I was going to say we've got maybe 3 or 4 minutes if there's a burning question out here. A second.
Anyone? If not, you can ask your
okay,
burning question.
Okay, well, if I'll try to squeeze 2 in, we'll see. cut me off. But I'm wondering, one of the things one of the challenges with China's mobile industry is it's the world's biggest mobile phone market, but the amount of marketing dollars that go into it, it remains shockingly small. What's holding the industry back?
I mean, it's actually not just China, it's almost everywhere in the world. The mobile marketing budgets are very, very small compared to the reach and the amount of time that's spent. In fact, if you look at all the studies out there, people are spending actually more time on their mobile phones than they are on their computers. But the budgets are about 1/10 the numbers. So if you look at that from that perspective, and if you look at reach, it's actually even worse. I think that the biggest issue in the past is about how advertising is bought, is that it's going through media agencies, and media agencies really are not the most tech-savvy people. So just getting them to buy digital media took a number of years. Now they're starting to be forced by their clients to buy mobile media. And then mobile, the other issue with it is because there's a lot of different ways to implement. It's a very complicated solution. So it could be, you could do SMS, you could do mobile apps, you could do mobile websites, you could do mobile banner buys, you could do location-based services, blah, blah, blah. And media companies as well as creative companies don't really know how to put that all together and how to integrate it with their existing campaigns. So people sell what they know. And when they don't know, they don't want to embarrass themselves by offering something that doesn't make sense. So, like the last 3 months, we've been working with a very large FMCG company, who's unnamed, but they spent a lot of time just trying to sell toothpaste, and you're trying to think, how do we get mobile to help with this? And we went back and forth on multiple things that we could do with them, and now after all this time, they're finally going to make a decision. So it's a very, very long selling process because it's something that it's hard for them to get their arms around.
Okay.
Last question.
Very last.
What keeps you awake at night? What's the next trend or challenge that worries you?
Actually, what keeps me awake at night is finding good people. And I think that's true for probably every entrepreneur in China and probably most of the people in the world. Finding good management people in China is almost impossible because anybody who's worked their salt wants to do their own thing. They don't want to work for you. They want to they want to be the boss. They don't want to be the vice president. They don't want to be the director. And most people overestimate their own ability to do that. So I've had a number of people who actually worked for me. They left thinking that they're ready, and then they come back and say, "Oh, now I know how hard it was. It really wasn't that easy." And and they want to come back or they want to get advice. And because Chinese youth are very entrepreneurial, they actually want to be the boss. So that's for me the hardest time. And for me, having 3 companies, actually I'm trying to find a CEO, by the way, to take over mInfo. So if anybody, you guys are candidates or no candidates, send them my way. But that's what keeps me up at night, is finding good people and keeping them motivated.
You're not going to use Guanxi to find them?
Yeah, unfortunately, most of the people on Guanxi are younger. They're probably 20 to 26, so they're not really CEO type people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
All right, Alvin?
But hey, thanks, Normandy.
Great,
Great
thank you.
questions. And
Thanks, Normandy. Thanks,
Rebecca.
Alvin. Let's give them a round of applause.